She didn't take her hairbrush. That was the first thing I noticed. The suitcase by the door was gone. Her charger, her denim jacket, the purple water bottle with the dent in the lid, all gone. But the hairbrush? Still on the sink, tangled with strands of her hair like a crime scene no one cleaned up. It made me pause. I stood in the bathroom doorway with the light off, heart pounding like I'd walked into someone else's life. The silence was thick. Not peaceful, not calm, just heavy. Like the air had decided to suffocate me for letting this happen. I didn't even check the closet. I knew what I'd find. Empty hangers. The one drawer that always stuck. Smooth as butter now. I should have felt angry, or betrayed, or something other than. Stupid. But what I felt most was embarrassed. Because she didn't even slam the door. She didn't throw a scene. She didn't write some long, dramatic goodbye. No yelling. No tears. Not even a cheap sticky note. She just left like she was headed to the grocery store. And somehow, that hurt more. I walked through the living room like it was an open casket. Pillows fluffed. Blanket folded. Coffee cup rinsed, but not washed. The last text on her phone from me still read. Want me to pick up that soup you like? No reply. I sat down on the couch, not knowing whether to scream or laugh. There was no music playing, no TV on. Just the refrigerator humming behind the wall and the whisper of my own thoughts asking me, how long have you known this was coming? The answer? Way too long. I saw it in the way she started turning her phone over when I walked into the room. In how she didn't hum when she cooked anymore. In the way she got quieter when I said I missed her. And now? Now it was confirmed. She had finally done it. She'd gone. Packed up the pieces of herself she wanted to keep and left the scraps for me. But what she didn't know is, I made it easy on purpose. I saw the signs. I left the door unlocked. I didn't chase her car when it pulled out of the lot 2 nights ago. I didn't respond when she said, maybe some time apart will help us figure things out. I just nodded. Because part of me wanted to see if she'd do it. If she'd really go. And when she did, I stayed calm. Too calm. That's when I realized something I think she still doesn't know. She thought I'd beg. She thought I'd cry. She thought I'd unravel without her. But instead, I exhaled. I didn't hold the door open for her to walk out. I held it open so I could finally close it and lock it behind her. I thought she was gone for good. That's what I told myself the first 3 days. I didn't text her. I didn't check her location. I didn't even stalk her social media like some desperate teenager. I just sat in the quiet and tried to remember what it felt like to breathe without needing her to fill the room. But on the 4th day, the fire alarm in our building went off, and everything changed. I was eating cereal at 9:47 a.m. Yeah, breakfast at nearly 10, don't judge me, when the shrill siren blasted through the apartment. I grabbed my keys and headed out barefoot, crunching bits of dry cereal underfoot like my morning needed more humiliation. I assumed it was a false alarm. They always are. But then I saw the firefighters actually running into the west stairwell, the one closest to the guest parking lot. And that's when I saw it. Her car. Parked right there, like it had never left. Same dent in the front bumper. Same faded bumper sticker she swore she'd peel off for months. I stopped walking, the rest of the world still moving in fast forward while I stood frozen on the sidewalk, watching the reflection of red and blue lights flicker off her windshield. My first instinct was to think she forgot it, or maybe had someone pick her up. But then I noticed the driver's seat was adjusted, not like I remembered. Like someone taller had driven it. Someone who leaned back when they drove. Someone not her. By the time the fire crew came back down and waved us off, I had already circled the lot twice like some idiot trying to pretend I wasn't losing my mind. No fire. Just a tripped sensor in someone's oven. But the moment I stepped back inside the building, I heard something even more unsettling than a false alarm. Laughter. From down the hall. Her laugh. Except not the kind she used with me. This one was flirtier. Quieter. Followed by a man's voice I didn't recognize. I stood still for a second, listening like a coward, not daring to walk the rest of the way to our door. And then I realized it wasn't coming from our apartment. It was coming from Anna's, our downstairs neighbor. The one who always borrowed sugar and left candles burning in her window. The one who worked odd hours and once mentioned knowing a good couples counselor. The one who told me, once, almost like a warning, Lorna's been spending a lot of time around here when you're not home. I'd laughed back then. I wasn't laughing now. I knocked. I don't know why. I didn't have a plan. Maybe I was hoping I was wrong. That the laugh wasn't hers. That the fire alarm was just coincidence. That her car was being borrowed by a friend. But the second the door cracked open, everything collapsed. It was her. Hair tied up, wearing that stupid band tee she always said was too sentimental to throw out. Barefoot. And behind her, not even trying to hide, was a guy in gym shorts and a smug, unbothered expression, the kind of look you only give when you think you've already won. She blinked, stared, didn't say a word. Not hi, not sorry, not even this isn't what it looks like. Just stood there, watching me. And that's when I realized something so loud, it drowned out even the echo of the fire alarm. She wasn't hiding this. She wanted me to see. And I swear to God, I still almost said the dumbest thing a man could say in that moment. I almost said, we can fix this. But I didn't. I just smiled, or tried to, and said the calmest sentence I've ever spoken in my life. Take your time packing. Then I turned and walked back to our apartment. I closed the door gently, and that's when I started planning the part she never saw coming. I didn't cry. That surprised me. I always thought if it ever came to this, finding her in another apartment, dressed down for someone else, with his voice echoing in the hallway, I'd fall apart. Scream maybe. Throw something. Do something reckless. But I didn't. I just sat at the edge of our bed, staring at the stack of laundry I'd folded the night before, like it might get up and explain all this to me. The TV was still paused on one of her baking shows. I could hear the cheerful voice of the host frozen mid-sentence, her wide smile captured in a still frame, holding up some rustic lemon pie. I stared at that stupid pie for almost 10 minutes before I realized I hadn't blinked. Then I stood up, walked to the kitchen, and grabbed a pen. I made a list. I didn't think about it. I just started writing like my hand was moving without me. Not angry rants or petty name-calling. Just facts. Cold, clear, bulletproof. She left without a word. She lied about where she was. She laughed in someone else's hallway. She looked me in the eye and felt nothing. When I was done, I flipped the paper over and started a second list. This one was titled, Things That Are Still Mine. It was shorter, but it felt louder. The lease. The dog. The savings account I hadn't told her I opened after our third fight about financial freedom. And the keys. Yeah, she still had her set. But I had the master. So I called a locksmith. It wasn't dramatic. I didn't tell the guy anything other than, my wife moved out, and I need a fresh start. He nodded like he'd heard it all before. Maybe he had. Maybe I was just one in 1,000 sad husbands with too many keys and not enough courage. But when the lock clicked into place, I felt something shift in my chest. Something clean. Final. Then I took Simon for a walk. The beagle, not the metaphor. And as we rounded the corner of the courtyard, guess who we ran into? Her. No smug guy this time. Just her, alone, carrying a brown paper bag from the bakery she used to love, the one she once dragged me to every Saturday until she got bored of routines. She stopped walking when she saw me. Her eyes scanned me like she was trying to decide which version of me she'd have to talk to today, the begging one or the bitter one. But I gave her neither. I just nodded and said, Hope you got the lemon pie. Her face twitched. Not guilt. Not regret. Shock. Because she suddenly realized the version of me she was expecting, the doormat, the desperate man begging for closure, was gone. And worse, I hadn't replaced him with rage. I'd replaced him with distance. She opened her mouth to speak, closed it, then said something that made my stomach twist even more than the betrayal. You really locked me out. That's when I knew. She never left expecting to lose anything. She thought she could slip away, explore her freedom, then walk back through the door like nothing happened. She thought I'd make space for her in the same bed I used to wake up in, clutching the hope that she still loved me. So I nodded. Yeah, I locked her out. And I'd do it again. But this time, I'd make sure she understood what else she'd never be getting back. I don't know why I did it, but that night I set the dinner table like she was coming home. 2 plates, 2 napkins, 2 wine glasses. I even reheated the leftover pasta she used to love, the one with too much garlic that I always messed up. Simon stared at me from the doorway like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had, but I just needed to feel something normal for 5 minutes. 5 minutes of pretending she'd walk in, hang up her coat, and ask if I'd remembered the red pepper flakes. She didn't. Of course she didn't. What showed up instead was a notification on my phone. My Bluetooth speaker had just connected, which was strange because it was still in our bedroom, and I was in the kitchen. I froze. The speaker was linked to her phone, too. We used to play our Spotify playlist through it. If it was connected, that meant she was nearby. Like in the building nearby. And when I pulled out my phone and looked again, it confirmed it. Now playing Lorna's iPhone. I didn't even have to guess where it was coming from. I walked down the hallway like I was approaching a locked vault. Every step felt like peeling off another layer of skin. And when I got to the door, the sound hit me. Not music. Voices. Not hers. A man's. Loud. Laughing. Swearing. Then her voice, faint but unmistakable. Nervous laughter. A half-hearted shhh, like she didn't mean it. I didn't knock this time. I just stood there, listening. Not because I wanted to punish myself, but because I wanted to know. I needed to stop defending her in my own head. I needed to hear with my own ears what my gut had been screaming for weeks. And I did. I heard them toasting to something. Him joking that it wasn't like he was stealing anyone's wife. She'd already left. Her silence after that. Long too long. Then her saying, he'll get over it. He always does. That broke something in me I didn't know could still break. It wasn't the betrayal. It was how little she thought of me. Like I was some safe, pathetic man she could use as a landing pad between her more exciting mistakes. Like I'd be there, waiting, whenever she needed to feel stable again. Like my love was disposable. So I left. Not the apartment. Not the city. Just the idea of her. I left the door unlocked behind me. Not to invite her back, but to dare her to walk into what used to be our life and feel how empty it had become without my hope in it. I didn't say a word to her. I didn't send a text. I didn't even slam a door. But the next morning, her Bluetooth was disconnected. And 3 hours later, I found an envelope shoved under the front door. No return address. Just my name, written in rushed handwriting I knew too well. Inside, one key. No note. No apology. Just the key she'd thought I'd beg her to return. She had no idea that the Real lock was never on the door. It was in the version of me she expected to keep waiting. And that version? He was gone. It had been 12 days since the key showed up. 12 days of silence. No texts. No emails. Not even a passive-aggressive Venmo request for her half of the air purifier she insisted on last winter. It was like she'd vanished. But I'd learned by now, people like Lorna don't just vanish. They circle. They test the air before they re-enter. Like wolves sniffing a door they used to own. On the 13th day, it rained. Not the light, romantic kind of rain you see in movies. The heavy, gray, soul-sucking kind that makes everything feel heavier. I was halfway through cleaning out the hallway closet when I heard the knock. Not loud. Not frantic. Just soft. Hesitant. Like the person on the other side wasn't sure they should be there. I opened the door, and for a full second, I didn't recognize her. She was wearing this ridiculous yellow raincoat, the one she used to call her lemon armor. Her eyes were swollen, hair pulled into a sloppy knot, mascara smudged like she'd lost a fight with her reflection. She didn't even try to look composed. "Can I come in?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. I didn't answer right away, because behind her, literally standing 6 feet away, was him. The guy. Smug face. Gym shorts. Same lazy posture. Now made worse by the fact that he was holding her umbrella like a chauffeur waiting for instructions. She turned slightly, realized I'd seen him, and immediately dropped her gaze. "I told him I just needed to grab a few things," she mumbled. I leaned on the doorframe. "What things?" I asked, not unkindly, just curious. She glanced past me, toward the apartment she used to command like a stage. Her eyes flicked to the shelf, the kitchen, the spot on the floor where Simon used to nap. But nothing in that moment hurt as much as her eyes stopping on the hallway, and the pair of shoes sitting neatly next to mine. Not hers. Not mine. Someone else's. I hadn't planned it. It wasn't some grand revenge. But 2 nights ago, I met someone. A woman named Evie. She was quiet. Kind. We talked for hours about nothing and everything. She wasn't some rebound fantasy, just a reminder that I was still allowed to exist outside Lorna's gravitational pull. I didn't even realize Evie had left her shoes. But Lorna saw them, and everything in her face shifted. She opened her mouth to speak, maybe to accuse me, maybe to apologize, maybe to fake some sadness she didn't feel. But before she could get a word out, her phone buzzed. She flinched. I saw the name on the screen. It wasn't his. It was someone else. A third guy. I didn't say anything. Didn't need to. She stepped back, like the hallway had just tilted beneath her. She turned halfway, then looked at me one last time. "You really changed," she said, like it was an accusation. "No," I replied. You just ran out of chances to expect me not to. She stood there for a second, as if waiting for the old version of me to crack. To say fine, come inside. To play the same broken record we'd both danced to for years. But I didn't. I just nodded toward the elevator and gently shut the door. Behind it, the silence didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt earned. And for the first time in forever, I felt like the man she never believed I could become. The one who finally stopped waiting for her to care. I didn't expect to hear from her again. After that rainy day encounter, I figured she'd shrink into the shadow of her own decisions, too proud to admit defeat, too stubborn to say sorry. Lorna never apologized. She justified. She rewrote. She edited memories like old drafts no one else was allowed to read. But she didn't vanish. She just got messy. It started small. My doorman, Felix, told me she'd been coming around during the day when I was at work, just pacing the sidewalk, sometimes standing across the street pretending to be on the phone. Once, she asked him if I was doing okay. Felix, bless him, told her flatly, he's doing better than ever. I didn't even ask him to say that. The universe was finally tired of protecting her. But then something truly strange happened. Evie, the woman I'd quietly started seeing, called me one evening, her voice shaking. She left a note, she said. What? Who? Lorna. On my door. I felt my stomach cave in. Evie lived just 2 buildings down. We hadn't even posted a picture together, hadn't made anything public. But somehow, Lorna had found out. Tracked her down. Or worse, watched us. I rushed over, and there it was. A single envelope, taped neatly to the door like some deranged welcome letter. No name on the front, just a wobbly heart drawn in pink marker. Inside was a folded sheet of notebook paper, torn at the edge. It read, "You don't know him like I do. He's fragile. He clings. He breaks things without meaning to. Just be careful. I'm not trying to take him back. I'm just trying to protect you from the crash." No signature. Just that twisted, backhanded kindness that was always Lorna's favorite weapon, disguised concern. A toxic perfume she sprayed over everything she ruined. Evie looked at me like she wasn't sure what to believe. And honestly, I wasn't sure either. Not because I still had feelings for Lorna. That part of me had starved. But because it suddenly hit me how much of my identity she had shaped. How she'd trained me to expect blame wrapped in affection, guilt smothered in tenderness. "I'm not fragile," I said, trying to sound confident. Evie raised an eyebrow. "I never said you were." That one hit harder than I wanted to admit. Because the truth is, I had been fragile. I had clung. I let Lorna twist my spine into a shape that fit her idea of love, and now I didn't know how to stand straight in front of someone healthy. I felt like a man with bruises that hadn't healed but weren't visible either. But here's the thing, Evie didn't flinch. She didn't leave. She just took the note, folded it slowly, and dropped it in the trash like it didn't deserve any more of the oxygen between us. "Let her haunt herself," she said quietly. "Not you." That night, I slept deeper than I had in months. But when I woke up the next morning, my phone had 16 missed calls. All from Lorna. And the last voicemail? It was just 5 words, whispered like a secret she couldn't believe she was saying out loud. "You locked me out forever." She finally understood. But it was already too late. The first time I saw Lorna at the party, I thought I was imagining it. There was no way she'd show up here. Not this building, not this floor, not this night. But there she was, hovering just inside the doorway, holding a glass of something she probably hadn't poured herself, scanning the room like a ghost trying to find the life she used to haunt. It was Evie's housewarming party. She'd just moved into a new place, bigger, brighter, full of people who actually smiled when they talked. I helped her paint the kitchen 2 weeks ago. She'd picked this soft, warm green that reminded me of calm mornings. I hadn't realized how much I missed those until I had one again. Everything felt new. Even me. That night was supposed to be the first time we stopped tiptoeing around the past. No more whispered introductions. No more hiding each other from the fallout of Lorna's long shadow. It was the first time I held Evie's hand in front of other people, and meant it. And then Lorna walked in. She wasn't invited. That much was obvious from the way the room shifted when she appeared. Conversations paused. Glances were exchanged. I didn't even know she knew anyone here. But of course she did. Lorna always found a way to be exactly where she wasn't supposed to be. She made her way over like she was walking through fog, locking eyes with me across the room. I didn't move. Evie squeezed my hand once, just enough to say, "I've got you." and then let go so I could face whatever this was about to become. Lorna didn't say hello. She just stared at me for a long, uncomfortable second before saying, "This is your world now." It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. I took a breath. "Yeah, it is." She smiled. "Not a real one. The kind you give when you're trying not to crack your own mask. You look different." "Because I am." She looked down at her drink. "Everyone here thinks you're the victim." I tilted my head. I was. That one landed. Her eyes flashed with something sharp. Hurt or pride. I couldn't tell. Maybe both. Maybe they were the same for her. Then she leaned in closer, voice low, like she wanted the room to lean in with her. "Do they know the whole story, though? The real version?" I didn't flinch. "The version where you left me without a word, moved into another man's apartment, and came crawling back when you realized he wasn't a fairy tale? That version?" Silence. I could feel the tension ripple through the people around us. Nobody interrupted. Nobody stepped in. It was like the party had frozen just long enough for Lorna to realize she was no longer the lead character in this script. She opened her mouth to speak, probably to rewrite everything, like always. But before she could, Evie stepped forward. Calm, collected, no theatrics. Just one quiet sentence that shattered the room like glass. "He doesn't need to defend himself anymore." Lorna's face broke. Not into tears. Not into rage. Just into this dull, blank stare like the fight had finally left her bones. She backed away. Didn't finish her drink. Didn't slam the door. Just turned and walked out, leaving behind nothing but that familiar scent of disappointment, like smoke from a fire that burned long ago but still haunts the walls. No one followed her. Not this time. And as the music started again, as the laughter slowly filled the gaps she left behind, I finally understood something I'd never been able to before. She had always believed I'd never let her fall. But now that I had, she didn't know how to land. I found one of her old sweaters last week, buried at the bottom of a box labeled winter stuff that I hadn't touched since she left. It still smelled faintly like her old perfume. That clean vanilla scent she used to spray before heading out the door to places she never told me about. I didn't cry. I didn't even get angry. I just folded it neatly, placed it in a donation bag, and zipped the box shut. That's the thing no one tells you about healing. It doesn't come with fireworks. There's no big musical moment, no perfect apology that sets the world right. Healing is a quiet decision you make 100 times a day, not to go back, not to reopen what you finally managed to close. I saw Lorna one last time, accidentally, at the farmer's market on a Sunday morning. She was standing alone by the bread stall, staring at a table full of loaves like she didn't know how to make small choices anymore. She didn't see me. I watched her for maybe 10 seconds, and in those 10 seconds, I didn't feel rage, or loss, or longing. I just felt done. Evie walked up beside me, smiling, holding 2 coffees and a bag of peaches. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. More than okay. And I meant it. It's strange how fast things can change once you stop holding space for someone who never planned to stay. I used to think closure meant some deep conversation, some perfect final scene with all the right words. But sometimes, closure is just watching someone realize the door doesn't open for them anymore, and knowing you don't have to explain why. I still think about Lorna sometimes. Not out of sadness, but because she taught me what I'll never tolerate again. She taught me what love isn't. And that's a lesson I carry into every new morning, especially the ones that start with laughter, fresh coffee, and Evie wearing mismatched socks, dancing barefoot in the kitchen. I had typed out a message once. A long one. Something I thought I needed to say, but I never sent it. Because there was nothing left to say. Some stories don't need revenge. They just need an ending. And this is mine.